All right. Onto submarine cables as well as data centers, which completes the network infrastructure which are introduced with internet service providers. Now, submarine cables are these um, undersea or underwater fiber optic cables which are laid on the ocean floor, and they connect continents, connect countries, and they cover or they carry international internet traffic. So the reason why they're important, the reason why I'm bringing them to your attention is because over 95% of international internet traffic travels through submarine cables and not through satellites. Now think about that, over 95%. So they essentially carry, or they form the global internet infrastructure or the backbone of the internet because much of international traffic or international internet traffic travels through these submarine cables. Now they've a design or a design structure which has, the optical fiber core which transmits the light signals as pulses of light, as well as the protective layer around that fiber core, which also includes steel armoring for more protection as well as waterproof insulation. So that's the typical structure of these submarine cables in order for them to last a very long time on the sea and transmit um, international internet traffic worldwide and connecting continents. And how they work is you have data which is transmitted as pulses of light, as those light signals, um, generated by lasers as well as LED lights, and they travel through these glass or plastic optical fibers, and they use laser transmitters in order in order for the data to be transmitted at very very high speed. They also use optical amplifiers, which are also known as repeaters. Those repeaters are usually placed somewhere around 50 to 100 kilometers. That's the typical distance at every 50 or 200 kilometers to amplify the light signals, as well as they also use something called wavelength division multiplexing, or which is known as WDM, and that allows multiple signals to be transmitted, even though they have different wavelengths. They can be transmitted all at the same time because of this wavelength division multiplexing technique, right? So that's how multiple light signals are able to be transmitted. Right. So when you compare these submarine cables as compared to systems or communication satellites that are orbiting the Earth, these submarine cables have higher bandwidth compared to those satellite systems. They have lower latency compared to satellite communication systems. You realize when you go back to when you watch the video on satellites, I've said that one of the limitations of those satellites is that they have high latency, right? Which means there's delay in communication. So that's how they differ. So these submarine cables usually have, a greater capacity compared to satellites, and they have a more stable connection compared to satellites, right? So these submarine cables are really, really important in the global network infrastructure, right? So they form this network infrastructure, and then now on to data centers. Now these data centers, we understand them usually to be operated by large organizations around the world, and they are basically their facilities that house a number of things like servers, networking equipment or networking devices. They also house storage systems, and the purpose of them is to to process, to store, as well as distribute data worldwide, globally. That's global communication, right? Now they host the data centers or these facilities. They host a number of things. They host websites, email systems. They host streaming services or streaming platforms, as well as financial systems, and including social media platforms. So they play a critical role in society, and billions of dollars being invested in building data centers. Now, in these data centers, you'd find different things, as some of them I've already mentioned them. you find servers. Servers are your supercomputers or these powerful computers which are there to process and to store data, right? That's the purpose of these servers, right? So the server would receive um, billions of requests and process those requests and then send them back to the source, right? And another thing that you'd find in these data facilities or these data centers, you'd find networking equipment or networking devices such as the routers. Remember the routers that in the previous video, the routers, the switches, as well as you'd find firewalls and many other networking devices which are in a data center. And you also have storage systems in data centers, such as hard drives, also SSD arrays, which are intended for large scale storage systems or large scale storage purposes. And then cooling systems are also a major part of these data centers in order to prevent things like overheating, explosions and that sort of thing, or fires, whatever. Security systems as well, whether they are physical and cyber security, whether it's cyber security measures or it's physical systems. Those security systems are also in the data centers, as well as power supply systems, such as uninterruptible power supplies, as well as backup generators. So those are all the things you find in the data center. The servers, the networking equipment, the storage systems, the cooling systems, the power supply systems, as well as the security systems, and the different classes or types of data centers. And it's important for me to classify them. Um, you'd find enterprise data centers. Those enterprise data centers, are built and operated by or owned by large organizations, right? So that's one type of data center. And another type of data center that you'd find are cloud data centers, which are operated by cloud service providers like Amazon, Microsoft. Those are the common ones, as well as Google, right? And these cloud data centers usually or specifically for cloud computing services. That's what they're intended for. So that's the second type of data center that you would find. And the third data center that you would find around the world is edge data centers. Those ones are in close proximity to the end user, or they're located closer to the user. And the purpose of that is to reduce latency. Remember latency? Keep that word in mind, because boy, you're going to talk about latency, right? And then there is the co-location data centers. Um, these co-location are usually data centers that are usually rented by multiple businesses. So they share the facilities, those multiple businesses. So those are the different types. There's, like I've mentioned, for co-location data centers, enterprise data centers, I edge data centers, as well as cloud data centers, right? So those are the different types of data centers. Now, why they're important lies in the fact that when you send a request to a server, right, you send, and it can be any type of request, could be streaming a video, could be sending an email, could be opening a website, could be using cloud storage, any type of request you send a request, that request goes to a server, which is somewhere in the world or in that data center, or it is stored in that data center in order to process and store the data which has been received by it. So after processing the request, and then it then sends back the requested data to the user, back to the user. So that's why these data centers are important, because they form this global infrastructure, which includes servers as well. Right. Now, all these systems that I've mentioned, the modems, the routers, the switches, the ISPs or the internet service providers, as well as submarine cables, fiber optic cables, including data centers as well. All these systems, they are interconnected. So the interconnected system which forms the global internet infrastructure. And how everything works together is usually um, remember I mentioned that there are billions of devices which are connected to the internet, whether it be a desktop computer, would be a laptop, could be a smartphone, could be any type of device, an IoT device, a smart fridge, a smart city, or an autonomous vehicle. It could be any type of device. All right, that device connects is essentially connected to modem, right? That modem is connected to the ISP or the internet service provider, right? With the as ISP or the internet service provider, you have routers in a data center which are there to direct internet traffic. Now the data has to travel through fiber networks and becomes international data or international traffic, which has to go through or travel through submarine cables. It then arrives at the server, which is at the data center. And then finally, the response from the server would take the reverse um, path or follow the same infrastructure back to the user. See you next time. Thank you.